Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. A big start to the week. We're going to be talking about the latest Bitcoin mining news and price action, including some big developments out of IREN, Mara, and Hive Digital Technologies. Before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares in IREN, Mara, or Hive and how you feel about these three miners. With that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, guys, away we go. Monday morning, setting up for a very interesting week as well. We're going to go through some of the updates on the miners, miner news, miner price action. But Anthony, you've changed time zones over the weekend there as well.
I have. I booked a flight on Saturday. I'm attending the Bitcoin Asia conference in Hong Kong on Thursday and Friday of this week, and hope to catch up with a few people in the industry at that conference. I won't be speaking. I'm just an attendee this time, but it'd be great to visit another conference. First time I've done this. I've been to Hong Kong many times, but it's the first time I'll do the conference here. And yeah, enjoying it. Let's hope I can sleep through tonight and not worry about any jet lag.
There you go. That must be nice. Thursday, I've got kindergarten orientation, so we're going to be doing drastically different things. That's all right, though, you guys. We wanted to get into some exciting news here. There's been some big developments in the mining space really over the last year as we've seen companies move into this AI HPC realm. We've got some big news we want to talk about today in relation to IREN, really continuing down that trail. But before we do, Bitcoin price. This was a surprise to me. It looks like a surprise to Freedom as well. We saw a pullback last week. It looked like Bitcoin was starting to recover. We're now back in the 112.7 range. I was not expecting to see Bitcoin in this type of territory for this long at this point in the cycle.
Yeah, I mean, this highlights, volatility. But one thing that did come out over the weekend is the one individual decided to sell a proportion of his Bitcoin, and that was over $2 billion worth. And he still has over $17 billion worth of Bitcoin remaining. So that sale of Bitcoin on Sunday didn't go down great with the Bitcoin price. And we saw it, drop literally from like 117,000 all the way down towards 110,000. And it started a little bit of recovery now. But yeah, that sale had probably an impact on the price as it occurred. And we know that these things, do have, impacts, but they're very short-term impacts. I mean, remember a few weeks ago, one individual who bought 80,000 Bitcoin back in the early days for around about $50,000, just over $50,000. He decided to sell all 80,000, which was worth, around about 8 billion through Galaxy Exchange. And that had an impact for a couple of days, but after that it was back to normal, and we reached an all-time high very quickly. The ETFs themselves are just buying Bitcoin. The corporate treasuries are buying Bitcoin. So as we're always looking for people who are selling, and we've had a couple of individuals selling the last few weeks. So it's it works well. People are taking some profits. That's fine. It's over $100,000. There's not many people at the moment showing a loss with Bitcoin because it's had a terrific run ever since the election date when the new president was announced. And we're in a good space at the moment. This trend looks fine to me. We're not really going below 110,000, so we're in a nice bracket and possibly heading back up towards all-time high again.
Yeah, and I got to say, if I was sitting on 19 plus $1 billion in Bitcoin, I'd probably take a few profits. And I got to wonder, what would be the first thing you do when that $2.6 billion hits your trading account or hits your bank account? I cannot imagine the going from 0 to 1 like that, but congratulations to whoever that is, and obviously tremendous OG profit taking there. Now, Bitcoin miners specifically, this is where it gets interesting. So Bitcoin price in shambles, as we just talked about, but we've seen this decoupling over the last few weeks, really on the backs of that TeraWulf Fluid Stack Google news that gave some life into the HPC AI aspirations of these miners. So today, IREN coming out of the gates extremely strong, flirting with $23. We're going to talk about some additional GPU purchases they made. Hive coming out, stating they're now in excess of 16 exahash. They're having a very strong session as well. We also got some news out of Mara that we'll get into, but I wanted to take a quick look at the price action here first.
Yeah, there's a few miners in the green. Most of those are all sort of like looking to use their power towards HPC, but there's equally, the majority of miners are actually in the red, and that's understandable. I mean, Bitcoin price has dropped down, $5,000 or $6,000 in the last few days, and we know that any small changes in Bitcoin price, the volatility of the miners is significantly higher than the volatility of Bitcoin. So at the lower end of the scale, you've got the likes of Mara, who are down nearly 5%, CleanSpark down nearly 3%. Both of those companies, I must say, have started to look towards high performance compute as another revenue stream. Whether they can play catch up to some of the other miners who've been in this space, looking towards developing that strategy for well over 12 months, time will tell. Because we've seen a lot of the miners there, link up with partners to deliver this. I mean, bear in mind, let's remember that the Bitcoin miners, they build Bitcoin mining facilities. They don't build, HPC facilities. And when we look at the likes of CleanSpark and Mara, they've effectively just, using a shell for their Bitcoin mining facility. So if they're going to move up to high performance compute, which they both look like they're going to transition some of their power towards that strategy, they need to probably partner up very quickly with whoever's available out there. I mean, we've seen Bitfarms, partner up with T5 data centers, and other miners have also partnered up with experienced high-performance compute people in their industries. I do remember Mara having a couple of execs on their team with HPC backgrounds, so that might be helping to a certain extent. But when you build out these facilities, you're going to need teams that have got real experience. And it's going to cost a lot of money as well. So let's see how that plays out. But a bit of a mixed bag today in the miner space. We'll cover a bit more about two of those that are in the green as we talk through the updates.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. We talked about Bitfarms partnering up with T5 data centers. We've seen a number of these other partnerships, but at this point, being kind of the last out of the gate, it is a good question you bring up. Who's going to be having the capacity or the consulting ability to bring on these additional clients? I guess time will tell there. Now, the first story we wanted to pick up on, Hive, and I've got to say they've been phenomenal in terms of transparency and communication throughout this process. We've talked about the importance of hitting targets that you communicate to the street. Not only are they on pace to hit that 25 exahash by Thanksgiving, but they're giving us updates each and every exahash milestone.
Yeah, we've had a number of these literally on a weekly basis, to be honest with you. And we'll still get, if they're going to achieve 25 exahash by US Thanksgiving, we'll continue to get these updates every week or every 2 weeks, showing that increase there. Remember, at the start of the year, we were just about 6 exahash in terms of mining hash rate at that point in time. Today, they've announced 16 exahash. That's a whole, 10 exahash more than they had at the start of the year. And with another 9 exahash to go to get to their target, that's an immense achievement for the company. Now, Paraguay was a great opportunity. Bitfarms wanted to get out of South America, and the opportunity arose for Hive Digital, and they've took it and really done well up to now, getting that site completed and installed all their new latest S21 hydro miners, which are the most efficient miners on the market at the moment. They've already put in 5 exahash at the Iguazu site there, and they're about to start phase 3 Valenzuela site development in September. So we'll see a lot more updates coming from that site there as they get to that target. The power price in Paraguay really helps Hive Digital because some of their sites in Northern Europe, in Sweden and in Canada, haven't been getting the same level of power that some of their peer miners have been achieving in, say, Texas or in, say, some of the other states in the US. So we know that Paraguay will bring down their blended energy costs down to, probably closer to 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour. That'll make sure that they're getting really good margins around, 50 to 60% and achieving 12 Bitcoin a day when they do get to that 25 exahash. And 12 Bitcoin a day at today's price is, getting close to $1.5 million of revenue per day for a company that's valued, a little more than maybe $400 million. That's more revenue than the valuation of the company on an annual basis.
Yeah, interesting when you start to look at some of those revenue run rate ratios. And the other thing that's interesting here, Hive is really the only pubco miner that's really taken a stronghold in South America. You see they are now expanding into Venezuela as well. This could be very interesting if the Trump tariff saga continues in the United States, essentially giving them a kind of a competitive advantage there to import machines to South America as opposed to Texas or some of these big sites in the States. So congratulations again to the team there. We'll continue to look forward to those updates. The next one, kind of an extension or along a similar vein to the last story we reported from Mara. They went out and purchased a subsidiary of a French power company. Now they've come out and said they're going to set up a regional headquarters in Europe, specifically in Paris. So this one's interesting, Anthony, for a number of reasons. We've talked about obviously the expanding power strategy with Mara, how it differs slightly from some of the other miners. They're basically looking more at the load management, power distribution, and energy infrastructure, but it definitely seems they're making a play or push in that European market.
Yeah, and these appointments will help them deliver that. They're going to set up this regional headquarters in Europe, in Paris itself, and Fred Thiel, has basically said, that the experience that these will bring to the table, the track record that they have in this finance and technology will help Mara advance its impact in Europe. I mean, it does surprise me they're moving to Europe. Energy prices are nowhere near what the like in the US. However, energy prices in Bitcoin mining are significantly more important than they are in high performance compute. So, Europe still needs to have high performance compute data centers there. Maybe Mara are able to get into the market there. We know that the largest data center is the Meta data center in Sweden, 150 megawatts. We've seen some of the miners in the US start to look at delivering sites in excess of that. And so Mara may be looking to get a piece of that market in Europe, set up in Paris. These two appointments will certainly help them deliver that. And we look forward to further updates as they announce, further inroads into the strategies that they're taking on.
Yeah, we certainly do. And I recall Kevin Deedy called Mara his top pick in the space, said to keep an eye on some of these big developments over the summer. So continued action out from the team, and we'll look forward to more of that. Now, the main event, I would say, for today, IREN, if you look at the board or the stock price today, just about at $23, we were holding out for that. I don't know if we'll get it exactly, but IREN has really been on a tear over the last 6 months. If we bring up a view here, Anthony, you can see up in excess of 150%. It's really no wonder why Matt Schultz and CleanSpark maybe are going after this type of opportunity.
Yeah, it's had a phenomenal run, over the last 12 months. We've shown you a 6-month timeline here, 157% in that 6 months there. The best performing miner year to date by a long, long way. I think the market really likes the way they're going about their business. I mean, they're already producing Bitcoin cheaper than all their peer miners. That helps with having the best fleet efficiency of all the miners. It also helps the fact that they've been very, very lucky in terms of they utilize the market rate for energy prices. And energy prices in Texas have been really good to the miners this year. Circa 3 to 3.4 cents a kilowatt hour is at the lower end of power costs in the US. And remember what Patrick Fleury said on the recent panel meeting over at the SALT conference. If you're paying 5 cents a kilowatt hour for your Bitcoin mining, you're spending half of your revenue to produce Bitcoin with the energy cost alone. So IREN are booking the trend on that. I've seen some of their monthly updates where they're paying literally 3 cents a kilowatt hour. And I've seen some where they're paying a little bit more than that. Riot also in that sort of very low 3 cents. Cypher in that low 3 cents there. that's going to help these companies in the Bitcoin mining space. As we say, it's not as much of an issue for HPC, but Bitcoin mining is on such very small margins that every percentage price difference in that energy price makes a big difference. And, IREN also, they've been going down this high performance compute route for a significant time, utilizing their Fort George facility to, add more and more GPUs to their on-demand service. And they've made an announcement today delivering some more GPUs, Bryce.
Yeah, they certainly have. And this is interesting. They're obviously going about the powered shell strategy as well in Texas, but up here in Canada, Prince George, so one province over from myself, they've got the data center set up. They're continuing to fill GPUs. They've purchased now 4,200 NVIDIA Blackwell B200s. These obviously have a much higher hourly rental rate per cluster. So you and I took a look at some of the rates here, Anthony. They really do range dramatically based on the type of GPU or model cluster that you're employing. In addition to that, they're expanding their AI cloud. Approximately 8,500 GPUs are going to be owned and operated, or leased and operated, I guess, through the Prince George facility. So this is, when you talk about sovereign data or sovereign data centers, this is becoming quite a sizable deployment here in Canada.
Yeah, so this purchase of 4.2 NVIDIA Blackwell B200s is going to cost, in the region of 102 million in terms of total cost. Now they're going to finance that in terms of a lease over the next 36 months, and they've managed to get an interest rate, they're saying, in the high single digit range, which suggests to me it's probably going to be close to that sort of 9 to 9.5%, lower than 10, obviously. But high enough to warrant not mentioning the actual rate itself. That's going to, effectively, probably cost, over 20 million interest over the 3 years. So, but again, we've seen, miners pay, more than double that when they were buying Bitcoin mining machines back in 2022. So, cost of capital for HPC significantly different from cost of capital for Bitcoin mining. I've not always been a fan of this, but one thing IREN have done is they've stuck to this model. They've grown the model. They've got potential to expand this model to 20,000 GPUs at that Prince George site there. And even if you sort of looked at what the revenue they were earning from just the first 2,000 machines, which is around about the 28 million of annualized revenue, that's going to be significantly higher than 250, 300 million of annualized revenue a year. We'll probably get Dan to give us more of an update on the expectation of when these machines are in. What does he think about revenue? What's he think about utilization? Can he give us more of a of why to go down this strategy when a lot of miners are looking potentially at the co-location? Does he feel that this is when you're spending 102 million on machines there, what's the payback time for that, to achieve that payback? How long are these machines going to last before the next model comes out? We'll be asking those sort of questions to Dan, and hopefully he can give us some guidance on the way he looks at it, and the way that the retail shareholders should be thinking at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say, the nice thing with our channel, we don't have to guess. We can ask the CEO or co-CEO ourselves. He's going to be on Friday, which is the day following earnings. So not only can we ask about all this stuff, we'll also hear about their full year Q4 as well earnings. I just wanted to also call out, if you look down the list here, they're now operating H100s, 200s, B200s, and B300s. So I've got to imagine, as you're talking to hyperscalers in these billion-dollar discussions, if you can come to the table and say, hey guys, we're already operating thousands of GPUs, various different models, we've got them running, we've got clients, I would imagine that really helps the discussion and credibility, I suppose, with these hyperscalers.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the machines, it's the fact that they've got facilities housing these machines as well. So, if you're able to, deliver an on-demand service using those GPUs, you're effectively doing what sort of CoreWeave are going to be doing at the Core Scientific sites. You're proving that you can do this, and that's what these next conversations will be all about. Because we said before, there's a lot of miners in the space. There's like nearly 30 public miners out there. It looks like they're all looking now to go down the HPC route, and as we know ourselves, Some will make it and some won't make it. I think IREN are going to make this okay. They've done their homework, they've done the due diligence, they've produced a strategy that shows they can do this on their own. The next step now is to get big partners for Horizon 1 and for Sweetwater 1 and 2, and use that model of proof of strategy in Prince George to highlight what they can actually do themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly it. A lot of miners are talking the talk. We'll see who can walk the walk here. Prince George as well, if you go over to the website, interesting, this is a 50 megawatt, 12-acre facility. So we start talking about 20,000 GPUs, the amount of money that can come out of this. And then you start thinking about Horizon 1 or Childress, just an exponentially bigger site and footprint. Quite mind-boggling where these companies could potentially be 5, 10, 15 years out from now. Speaking of where companies are at, you mentioned Sailor's back on the buying spree. He was buying at around 115,800 over the weekend. You can see a nice little green arrow next to strategy. On the top 100, we're getting near 1 million Bitcoin now, Anthony.
We're getting very, very close to 1 million Bitcoin, and it looks like there's a few miners been adding there as well. I mean, we know some of the miners like Bitdeer and Core Scientific like to post their daily production there, so we can really keep a track of what they're doing there. Kango also reached 5,000 Bitcoin now. That's an interesting concept there. I mean, 5,000 Bitcoin. That's probably getting very close to what their market cap is, and they've got 50 exahash as well. I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about the likes of Mara, the likes of IREN, the likes of CleanSpark in terms of reaching that 50. Kango are the fourth miner to do that, but their market capitalization is in a different ball game. And while we're on market capitalizations, I mean, we've highlighted the IREN the share price over the last 6 months. If we look at the share price of CleanSpark over the same period, that tells you a totally different story. And probably a reason why the management there have decided to look at moving into the HPC space, and they've already accessed some 1.2 gigawatts of pipeline of power. So we'll hopefully get more updates from them on where that actually sits and how they're going to develop that. But their share prices took a real tumble over the last sort of 12, 16 months. And when you look at market capitalizations, IREN's market cap as of today is now double the CleanSpark market capitalization. And if we go back, 16, 17 months ago, it was the other way around. In fact, it was probably significantly more in terms of multiples. That CleanSpark share price, when that was over $4 billion, IREN was nowhere near that. But we've seen a change in strategy, and it's really paid off for IREN. Maybe CleanSpark think if they can start getting involved in HPC space, that might help bring their share price back to where it is. As a mining company, they deliver exactly pretty much what IREN do. Maybe the power cost is slightly higher. Their efficiency is as close to IREN's as any other miner. So they do have very, very similar metrics. They're both two of the top 3 or 4 miners out there at the moment, month by month. So I haven't got any criticisms on mining. We've got one of the best mining operators out there in Taylor Monig at the moment. So everything ticks the box. It's just, I think the time frame to start moving into HPC has probably affected how the market looks at them, and now they're scrambling to try and work out how they're going to deliver that in terms of what sites are available to have those discussions with, and what partners they can bring on board really quickly to show they can work together with teams to deliver a co-location deal. I can't see them really going down into the on-demand route like some miners have, because it's a lot of capital to raise. And at the moment, even though their share price or market cap suggests it's over 2 billion, it's still going to be a challenge to start raising money for HPC when your peers, who are valued twice as much as you, are able to do that far easier. It's great when your share price is $22, $23. When you're diluting shares, you're getting a significant amount of capital for a lower amount of shares. And CleanSpark have already said they're not going to dilute until they get to $20 a share price. Well, the share price today is languishing in the sort of the $9 to $9.50 range. That's got a long way to go before they can start using that ATM, if they're going to stick to that plan, or whether they might change it and start using it to fulfill the HPC strategy.
Yeah, that would be my guess, is maybe they start dipping into the hodl. And also interesting on CleanSpark, they've communicated a 60 exahash target. They haven't communicated any timelines or strategy to get there. We do know the core scientific mining fleet could be up for sale. We do know potentially the Soluna fleet could be up for sale. So there are some acquisition or M&A targets. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see that on the Bitcoin mining or HPC side out of CleanSpark. So we'll continue to monitor that one. Anthony, I've got a gift for you at the end of the podcast. IREN did crack 23. I was able to get a screenshot. We'll throw it in. Awesome. Congratulations to anyone following this company. Anthony, you picked it up at half an exahash. I started covering IREN at 3.6 exahash. Looking back, just a phenomenal growth story, and so happy to be a part of it. So a fitting way to end the podcast. You guys, let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about IREN. If you're holding shares along with Hive or Mara, hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.